Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special three-part series with building a fitness program like a Paralympian with James Roberts. So I want to welcome you to the show. In part one, we're just going to focus mainly on nutrition and the best foods to eat. And of course, you can speak to that as a two-time Paralympian, right, in 2008 and 2012, and now you're currently an online personal trainer. Wow. So of all the people to talk to, you would be the best. And then part two will be focusing mostly on exercises that you want to start if you're rebuilding that system. And then the last part will be purely about mindset. So with that, welcome to the show and tell me.
Thanks for having me on, Cordelia.
Absolutely.
It's a great intro, so thanks again for having me on. So in terms of probably nutrition, it's probably, I think people delve maybe too much into it, and probably I wouldn't say it was a generalization, but they probably what would be the word I'd be looking for? Probably try to stretch themselves too far too soon, because they look to change everything straight away, and then you wanted to look at it from a mindset perspective. If you look at it solely from the nutrition perspective, because you're trying to implement so many habits so rapidly, obviously you can't do that, because you can maintain it for a short duration of time, and that's probably where that fad diet comes from, because you're able to withstand something that's different because you want to make that change. Because you've got a goal in mind that you want to lose X amount of weight in whatever given you've got, and you were able to make that change because you've got an end result in mind. But however, because in most cases people are looking to change so much, so drastically, obviously we look at it for that longevity, you're not going to be able to stick with it, because it's something that is not normal to you and not accustomed to you, and you kind of let it go by the wayside to some degree, because you once you stop, quote unquote, these fad diets, obviously you go back to doing what you're eating normally, and obviously you're going to put that weight back on, because you're eating in most cases what the body doesn't like, and obviously it's going to put that weight on. Okay, you can come at it from two different points, because we are more sedentary than ever before. So the lifestyle we live now isn't helping at all, because we're probably having food, and we discussed this off air before,
Right.
because we are having foods probably whenever we want. We're not very much, we could say, accustomed to how people were eating, say probably like 30, 40 years ago, where stuff was in season, and it was very much whatever was in that region, that's what they were eating, whereas we can get food from wherever in the planet, whenever we want. So we're not eating probably foods that are at their, you could say, at their best. Okay, what I mean by that is probably they're not in their season, so they're not probably as nutritious as they could be. They don't taste as good, but that probably comes down to taste buds and the things like that. And obviously we are eating more and more food, and also being more sedentary, obviously weight is going to go up. So you've got to kind of attack it from a nutritional perspective, probably twofold, because yes, you want to improve your diet, but we need to get up and move. Okay, you come out and say we need to improve exercise. You don't necessarily have to go to the gym to do that. So it's wrapping them all around into one kind of, and putting them into one bubble. You need to kind of, obviously, if we look at it solely from the nutritional perspective now, if you want to change something in your lifestyle from what you're eating, and I get questioned this quite a bit. People will say, well, I don't like this food, and this is one client in particular that springs to mind. He was in the supermarket when he asked me this. He's not a big fan of fish, and it was on our shopping list. And I said to him, well, if you don't like it, I'm not. It's only more of a reference guide to say, well, this is what you. Well, this is not what you should. This, I think, this is the interpretation most people get, is we are telling you what to do. It's more, and I probably had that mindset when I started my career, whereas now I probably listen to people. I've got a little bit more experience. I've probably had that ebbs and flow. That I've listened to people's feedback. And it's more now when I give out things, it's more of a guidance. If you don't like something on that list, I'm not saying you have to eat it. He obviously did, and I was kind of thinking, well, you kind of in a battle yourself straight away, because if you don't like something, you're not going to stick with it. Yeah. So it's, I think, from a nutritional perspective, I think obviously these diets you're able to stick with it for that little bit of time because it's different. And in most cases, people don't like, what would be one? Atkins, obviously, predominantly just eating meat for a long period of time. What was the other ones? Low carbs. There's nothing wrong with diet per se, but one of my mentors put out something, I think it was yesterday, sometime this week. He put it as, if you're going to go on a diet, don't look at it for the short term. It's not a bad thing doing it, but look at it more from this way. Look for it. Can you continue it on for longevity, and can you make it a habit? And then obviously it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle choice.
Exactly.
So it's looking at nutrition probably from that perspective, as opposed to diets and obviously putting on weight and things like that. It's changing your habits more specifically, as opposed to, I think what I don't like about it is because when I perceive a diet and people ask me, has your diet changed from a youngster to growing to become an athlete to now? I'm saying no, it's not. Okay, the quantities have changed over that time, but what I've actually eaten during that obviously transition has not changed. I probably, at times as an athlete, I probably ate poorly as well, but I got away with it because of the multitude of the hours of training. So I think it's very much looking at that. And I think where maybe society has gone wrong is obviously the word diet has kind of been taken over. It's trying to lose weight, whereas I don't know if maybe even the actual word in the dictionary probably changed as well. But the meaning to me growing up, a diet was what you ate on a day-to-day basis. So that is more looking at it from a lifestyle. And I think we need to maybe shift to that way of thinking again. And it's looking at, well, what do I want to improve from a lifestyle choice, and go very much that way about and doing things.
So you make me think about like 4 questions. So right off, I love the overview because definitely you got to move. And we are like statues, right? We're pretty much planted, on the couch or wherever it is, in traffic sometimes, right? Or on the bus or the train or whatever. So there's that piece. And then, so that makes me think of the question, to lose weight, do we need to focus more on our changing what we eat, since we are going to go back to the proper definition of the word diet, right? So do we need to change what we're eating? Is that going to be like 80% of it? Versus, most people think, oh, I want to lose weight, I'm going to get up and jump around or whatever, start going to the gym, which you also mentioned we don't have to go to the gym. So I guess let's start with that first question. Is it 80% what we eat, or is it 80% what we do?
I think it's very much dependent on the person's goal, but I think this is probably where people get get stuck by it is because they emphasize on, okay, we are a little bit far removed from New Year's resolution now. They think of obviously joining the gym, but if you can look back and harpen back to, okay, maybe have a goal before that and look at, well, why do I want to change X, Y, Z? Is it for me, or am I doing it for somebody else? Obviously, I would turn this question around on other people and say, well, first of all, you want to be doing it for yourself, and then that makes any goal that much easier because you are driven to want to improve yourself, and you're not looking to, we'll say, quote unquote, confined to what somebody else perceives or wants you to become, because you are then probably caught up in that bubble, so to speak, where I think society has gone, whereas we are more concerned with what other people think of ourselves as opposed to what we think of ourselves. I've worded that wrong. We are more concerned of what other things think of us as opposed to what we think of ourselves.
Right. So that is more of a question of self-esteem, maybe, right? Or self-confidence. The other thing you made me think about is the point about our food source, right? Because that's one thing I promote when I work with people is to eat foods that are in season, but it's like we don't even know anymore because we can get anything we want, right? So do you have something for the people you work with to follow what's in season?
I think maybe in the UK we very much, I think we, with the supermarkets, I think we do to some degree have stuff that is in season. I would say that would not be the case when it comes to fruit, but I think very much with vegetables, and what this I would probably recommend to your listeners and viewers would be to, obviously, if you're looking to lose weight, is obviously the big ones would be I think most people are probably shocked, is to increase your protein intake. So in most cases, well, I would say probably on average, maybe people are eating, we'll say, one meal, maybe 2 meals a day, which would constitute protein. Whereas if you increase that to 3, you are, because we are so dependent on carbohydrates to survive. I think because we, like when you touched upon it, we are so we have got food in such abundance. We have become probably overindulgent in the carbohydrate, obviously, because we're not moving around, because that food is not being utilized to actually to run the body. It's then getting stored. So it's, when I say increasing your protein intake from, say, one, well, probably the easiest way, if somebody's eating only 1 meal a day as a constitute protein, is looking to increase it to 2. If somebody's on 2, obviously go to 3. I think my programs with a lot of people, I get them to, I think it's 4, and the days that they're training, they got the protein shake afterwards. So it's very difficult to start off with, because you and even me, it was the same. To eat something that is, how would I put it, not be involve eggs, or you say, well, for us it's the British breakfast, or something like bacon or something like that for breakfast is very unusual for people, and it's getting that mindset changed. Okay, it's probably the difficulty one. It is a little bit weird having, I don't know, steak for breakfast. It's very much, it's out there, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't actually necessarily have to be that. It's probably the same. My mum would be the same. She'd have chicken for breakfast. It's very much getting your head around it, but once you get into the habit of doing it, it's very much easier. And why I say to increase your protein intake is because protein is going to make you feel fuller for longer, whereas in most cases in the Western society we're eating cereal,
Carbohydrates, yeah.
it's very much, if we look at it from just the cereals, it's only a short-term fix because it's a simple carbohydrate. It's I wouldn't knock it to say to get energy after exercise, because that's
Right.
what you want to do. You want to replenish your carbohydrate stores as quickly as possible to get your body functioning again. But from maybe a breakfast standpoint, it's not great, because you're going to have that high, and because of the amount of salt and sugars in those products, you're going to have this massive low. You're going to be hungry. I don't know. In most cases, mid morning, you're going to be craving food, and then you're on that vicious spiral. You wanting cupcakes, junk food, you name it, at that time before lunch. And then in some cases, they're not hungry for lunchtime, and you're then missing another, well, we'll say main meal of the day.
So I love that you brought that up about eating meats in the morning, because I've been doing some, I guess, some research in my laboratory here with my kids. So my 10-year-old son, for example, he has decided he wants to have chicken and rice, like basically dinner, right? And steamed vegetables for breakfast. I'm like, okay, that's a lot. I said, if you can find some leftovers, because Mama's not doing that this morning, right? And then on the other hand, I have my 7-year-old daughter, and she's like, how come you don't buy cereal anymore? Because for 2 weeks, I bought cereal, and she had cereal, and within 45 minutes, I kid you not, she was starving. She was like, Mom, I'm hungry. I'm like, but you just had breakfast. She's like, that's not enough. What did she want to eat? She didn't want to have what, my son eats. Now she wants to have bread, right, with almond butter, right, which is a little bit better, but still, so because she had the bread, 2 hours later, right, we're still not at lunchtime. She wants to eat again, right? So that is exactly true. And our bodies don't change just because we're adults. It's the same cycle. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So now on the topic of proteins, there may be vegans listening to us, okay? So I know, for my son, sometimes he doesn't want chicken and he's okay with steamed vegetables. So talk about other sources of protein.
In terms of for vegans and vegetarians, would you say even pescatarians? Well, obviously, if you're not a meat eater, you do have that choice of fish. If you are obviously averse to fish as well, you've got, this is where it gets a bit more complicated, because you've got to balance, so I get this right again, grains and pulses together, because of there's not the amino acid chain. So try not to be too scientific now, because you're going to get all of your 22 in meat and fish, whereas because I think it's 11 in with anything that's involving grain, you've got to balance it with pulses, be it lentils, rice, and to get them to combine, and that's get so it's very much more complicated. But to answer your question there, you want to have the likes of, like I raised, lentils, quinoa, these, well, you could say a few years ago, luxurious sounding name products. It's very much commonplace now, and whatnot. It's and you could say it from looking at the African cultures and Asians. They're very much, their diet is very much based on that. So you can say, well, they are, well, we could say they are at the moment thin, but because our Western capitalist ideals of fast food is becoming into society, they're having problems and epidemics with obesity now. And you could probably, well, you probably could constitute it solely on that. It's because they're having that shift in what is their custom dietary needs is being manipulated to some extent. They're now having problems as well.
You're right. Yeah, because in the some of the West African foods, they have a peanut soup and stuff like that. And then Asians, they also have some peanut-based sauces, right? Or I guess they call them ground nuts in Africa. So, and to your point, right, they were historically thin, but now we're seeing a rise in diabetes, right? With whatever of our chains are going over there. So yeah. So let's think about this. What was the other question you made me think of? I mean, getting away from really the specifics, you were talking basically like change the definition of diet and don't make it a fad thing, make it a lifestyle thing, right? Because so for you as a Paralympian, you had to eat a certain type and a certain quality of food on a regimen, right? And that was your lifestyle so that you could perform. So we need to look at that as like normal human beings, right? So we have to use our brains more, right? Then we have to use our bodies. You had to do both. You had to use your brain and your body, but we just have to use our brain. We don't so much have to use our body, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't eat just as well, because, you know, it has to be a lifestyle. So let's talk a little bit more about how to make it a lifestyle, like viewing it more as a lifestyle than a, you know.
Well, I think to be able to do that, it's like I said at the beginning, it's not overcomplicating the changes straight away. It's not trying to overwhelm yourself and take on, I don't know, what would it be a difficult goal to be? Say you were trying to change, I don't know, 5+ nutritional things that you were doing in your diet. Well, that's too much, because okay, for a short period of time, yeah, you're going to be able to do it, and then you say, I can't be asked with this.
Give up.
It's just too difficult. Whereas I would be much more of the advocate. Look to change one at a time. Get that, once you feel confident that you've got that one nipped in the bud, take the next one on, and so on. And you're gradually making these changes. And it's very much changing that way of thinking that I want the quick fix. Obviously, there's very much these, I don't know, slimming pills out there. You're going to lose X amount of weight. There's no such thing. If that existed, it would be that everybody would be doing it,
Right.
and it's not worth the risk, because you hear of these scares, people dying from these products. Well, obviously there's something within it that's, you could say, toxic to the body. Well, it's not worth it. It's being in it for the long run, I would say, and very much, well, not, and you could probably put that across any sphere. It's looking to, what would be the word I'm looking for? I can't think now. It's completely, but you're looking to have it in for the long road, and probably what we've gone away from societally is we want that quick fix, but you need to accept that things are gonna take time. And what I mean by that is, obviously we want that the result. We've got the result in mind. It comes back to me now. We've got the result in mind, but we don't want to focus on the task to get us there. So it's kind of, I've got this goal in mind. I've got my end result. Well, I want to get there as quickly as possible. But okay, this, depending on what it is, it's going to take time, and your body is very much individualistic. How you're going to respond to your friend down the road, your family member, is going to be totally different. So if I said to you, you're going to lose, this person's going to lose weight, I don't know, quicker than you, well, that's how you respond. So you can't very much say, well, you fit it within these parameters, so you should conform to the other person. Is very much, it doesn't work that way. So it's very much accepting this is you as an individual. It's very much, I would say, with nutrition, is very much trial and error.
Yes.
And it's being in it for, like I said, for the long run, and making it that lifestyle choice, and then you are enjoying food, which is the big one. I think because diets look to categorically take things out, you could say for a short period of time there's probably nothing wrong with it, but over the long run, you're in big trouble, because you're gonna cause more harm than anything, because you need certain facets of the nutrition. Because I was watching a nutrition program the other night. They were looking to not demonize carbohydrates, but it's getting a bad name for itself at the moment. Obviously, you harping back, well, not too long ago, it was fat.
Right.
You look at it, I think probably last year or the year before, protein was getting a bad name for it. So it kind of goes round in circles. Okay, yes, in large proportions, if you ate too much of anything, and this is probably where I have a little quarry with in terms of Slimming World and things like that, because they say you shouldn't eat fats and things like that. Well, it's like, well, I turn it on its head and say, well, if you eat something, even if too much of a good thing, it's still calories. It's that whole emphasis. What weighs more, a rock or a pound of rocks or a pound of feathers? Well, the weight is exactly the same. So it's exactly the same thing. If you put it from a nutritional perspective, if you ate, I don't know, a plate of cupcakes worth, or what would be healthy? Loads of, I don't know, a plate full of steak. Well, the quantity is still the same, and you are overindulging.
Overindulgence is overindulgence, absolutely. Definitely with that. And so, like, I like what you said. You want to enjoy food, right? I think the best way to do that, I don't know if you agree with this, but one thing that I recommend sometimes is people to take it a meal at a time, and not just literally a meal at a time, but like you're going to change what you eat for breakfast for a week, because breakfast is very important and a lot of people don't eat it. And just seeing that difference in their energy levels just from having breakfast, sometimes will help. But
I think you bring up a good point there in terms of missing breakfast, because it does, like you say, it sets you up for the day. I'm not saying they want people that don't eat breakfast, obviously, to change it, because you can get results from having intermittent fasting. It's not for everybody. Like I said, that every diet is different. For some people, it's not for them. So obviously, I wouldn't be an advocate and say, well, if it's not working for you, don't stick with it, because you're only hurting yourself. But like we said, it's just try to have something. It's better than nothing, because like we said earlier, you could have the flip side of that. If you've not eaten in breakfast, you are then hungry mid-afternoon, so you're going to, in most cases, make the wrong food choice. So it's exactly the same if we're having that food in first thing in the morning that's laden with sugar. It's that same thing, because your body is going into survival mode.
Yeah.
It hits that switch. Okay, I need that quick fix of carbohydrates. In most cases, obviously, a simple carbohydrate is bread. In most cases, things that are bad for you, because it's that instant hit to get you going. And obviously, the body is very much thinking of the brain. Oh, we're not functioning at we'll say 100% efficiency now. You need to do something about it. In most cases, obviously, you're going to make the wrong food choice in the grand scheme of things. But if we look at it from a functionality perspective, the body is only doing that to survive.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I want to conclude our nutritional portion with that. You brought out a lot of good points, and we have to remember that our bodies are very individual. Absolutely. So I thank you for that, and we'll close out this session, and then we'll get started again with part 2 on fitness. All right. Thank you.